costume with the egg beater on his head. You know, Wolverine's had a lot of different costumes over time, even though for a while it was just the same but different colors. You know, like Cyclops. People call Cyclops a boring character, and I'm like, a man with that many different outfits is not a boring man. He quite the wardrobe. Like, when I this new suit, my gosh, the amount of photos I ended up finding of suits that I completely forgot existed. I'm like, oh, that's right. He did wear that white and blue thing that one time.
He did wear that. He did wear that Tropicana hat.
He's had like a lot of costumes, and you know, that's the X-Men. Like, when there's that many different books out, and they've been around since the 60s, like, it's different books have different costumes. Like, Captain America right now has a different costume for every book that he's in.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it makes no sense, but that doesn't mean I don't like Captain America anymore.
Ruining the character.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't ruin the character that he has all the, like, 7 different costumes and he's on, like, so many different teams. Well, actually, no, I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
I think a character that can be ruined by being overexposed. It was Wolverine earlier, and I think that's definitely one of them. I think the other one right now is, well, not right now, but, you know, a couple of years ago was definitely Deadpool.
Oh, yeah. Well, now Deadpool's hype's really gone down, in my opinion. Like, it's toned down, even though we're getting a game next year, and I kind of want to play it. And it's not because I'm in no stretch the fan, a huge Deadpool fan, you know, despite the name. But even I hated the Deadpool hype, and I think it's toned down. That's the thing, and it's kind of weird too when you look back on it, because now it looks like the character. That's when I think a lot of people, you know, true diehard Deadpool fans, were like, when they overexposed the character, that's when they got really pissed off.
Yeah, well, 2009 or 2010, whenever it was, when he had like, how many books did he have out at one point? It was like 5 books.
Yeah. Let's see, there was Deadpool...
Like, this was a character that got big because he was this but he was this underground character that was so likable because he was so witty and funny. And, you know, people were like, this character's cool. And then he got more and more popular, and he started playing with the big boys, and that's all well and good. And then they're like, people must want more Deadpool. Let's shove him down everyone's throats. And that's not the sort of character you can do that with. You can do it to a degree with Wolverine, as long as he's consistently written in all of these books. I'm not saying you should do it with Wolverine, and I don't like it, but Wolverine's the kind of character that you can kind of do it with. Dead is not the sort of character that lends himself to overinflation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You can ruin a character by overexposing him and putting him in too many places.
Yeah, you could argue that's the same thing they did with Batman during the New 52. How many Batman books are there just with him?
I'm not sure if Batman's been ruined by that, but I mean, Batman's got...
Well, I'm not saying ruin, I mean like the overexposure.
Well, they're Batman and Detective and Dark Knight, and then you go...
And the other thing is, like, I didn't mean to say, like, ruined in terms of overexposure. Like, there are a lot of Batman-centric books, but the thing, like you were saying with, like, how to keep that in character is, like, keep the character consistent. And, you know, like, Batman the Dark Knight and the main Batman title, and you could even say Batman and Robin, he's consistent in a lot of these books. That's the one thing that I think is when you look at the Batman and Wolverine, how many titles they have or how many teams they're on, that is kind of like the driving thing. Batman's kind of kept consistent.
Yeah, and Batman is the sort of character that I'm okay them putting out a bunch of books for, because there are plenty of people in that continuity. Like, I'm not, you know, Batman can be told over 3 books. He probably has more than that. But I'm okay with there being Batman stories over that many books, and then there being Batgirl and Nightwing, because these are characters that can carry their own books, and Batman's the sort of character that can carry multiple books at a time. The X-Men can have multiple books because the different books focus on different characters, and the X-Men's such a giant universe that they lend themselves to that sort of storytelling. You can have Legacy focusing on a certain number of characters. You can have the X-Men focusing on certain characters. You can have New Mutants focusing. And then that bad X-Men title that they had, that was just X-Men. You can do that. Today it's different, and, you could do it with, when you had Uncanny being the Cyclops team and Wolverine being, obviously, Wolverine's team, that was also fine. I don't agree with the split of the team because it makes no sense, but, you still have two major books telling stories of different characters. It's like, now the X-Men are all going to be under one roof again, apart from, Cyclops, Magneto, and Magic. Nema, apparently. And, I don't know. X-Men, I've never claimed to be an X-Men expert. I know people think that I am. But I certainly have, I know more than I care to mention about X-Men, but when X-Men's been around since the 60s, and for many of those years, there have been multiple X-Men titles at a time, it's impossible to be an X-Men expert. You can't read all of that. It's impossible. So X-Men aren't ruined by having multiple titles as long as they play it where they should, where it focuses on different characters, where I don't have to read X-Men Legacy to enjoy Uncanny X-Men. These events aren't coinciding with each other because the characters I'm reading are different.
Yeah. Well, I think I've pretty much spent all my thoughts on this. Any parting thoughts, Kirk?
Not really. I think what you were saying, overexposure and overinflation is a good way to ruin a character, and but I still think characters need to be redeemed. I don't think that there are very few cases there are very few cases where I think a character can't be saved if they've been quote unquote ruined. I think anyone has the ability to save a character with good writing. And there are definitely examples of, stories that are terrible that, writers that have picked that up afterwards have, used it to their own advantage in their own, particular way. So I think everyone has the ability to make good on a ruined character or ruined story or whatever.
Yeah. Again, I think it all just boils down to just how the writer and how the company handles that said character.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier about mandates, and that's definitely a good thing. That's a good example where a company places too many mandates on the writer, where they don't. Sometimes you can tell the writer doesn't want to write this, but they have to adapt it to everything else that's going on in the continuity. A good example is Under the Red Hood, and then the movie ended up being what Judd Winnick probably would have done with that book, and the movie was much better.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, when J.T. Krull, remember, the Geekvolution interview with him, and J.T. Krull said he had so many other ideas for Green Arrow, but there were kind of mandates that kept him from doing what he really wanted to do with Green Arrow.
And, the companies need to have a handle on what's going on in their company.
Yeah.
But they also need to give the writer a certain amount of freedom. I'm not saying they should at all. That's ridiculous. They need to. They need to have a plan for where the character's going to be by the end of the year. They should all know what's going on with the characters. But in saying that, they shouldn't. I don't believe that companies should give the writer mandates to the point where it's disabling, where the writer can't tell a cohesive story. that can really hurt a character. And that definitely the return of Jason Todd was something that was not really liked by fans at first, and the movie really saved him. Jason Todd's a good example of a character that was, brought back under questionable circumstances, but when Winnick wrote what he would have liked to do, it was
right. You still there?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I thought the mic went out. Sorry. But, yeah, so, more or less, I think that's pretty much all our thoughts on this. There are so many different ways you could take this answer. I think we've pretty much covered everything on this subject, and you could come up with 1,000 different answers for, what defines as a character is ruined. But I don't think you can ruin a character forever. Oh, no, I take that back. There's a possibility, but I think it all depends. I think it just boils down to, like we were saying earlier, just writers. And so I think we've pretty much covered that. I want to thank Shades at Night for coming on board and helping me out with this.
Can I just say one more thing that just came to mind, actually?
Okay.
I think
I'm sorry, what?
I think deaths in comic books have been ruined.
Deaths in comics have been ruined. That I can agree with.
Yeah, I think the big thing that you killed off this major character and it was global news, and then you brought him back and he wasn't really dead the whole time. That's a way to ruin. It kind of taints Superman forever as well, but it definitely ruined deaths in comics. They've never been the same since. That whole notion of no one stays dead except for Bucky, and no one stays dead except for Jason Todd. It's like,
no one stays dead except Uncle Ben now. And even then, we're all kind of leery.
I mean, I like what they ended up doing with Bucky and Jason Todd once they were brought back, but, they're the sort of thing, they're not good examples, but, they were dead for many years, but with certain characters, like Johnny Storm's death was a big deal, and then it was, he's back now, so what does that say?
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, deaths in comics, those are ruined. As a concept, that as a comic book concept, that is completely destroyed.
Yeah, it's like, people shouldn't be so harsh on Cyclops for killing Xavier, because he'll just be back in, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time Xavier's died. And it won't be the last.
He'll probably come back with a full head.
Yeah, he'll come back looking like John Lennon.
Sure. Head and shoulders on the back with a full head of hair. Xavier.
Yeah, he'll come up in a little yellow submarine.
Good. The afterlife, Xavier.
I never died. That was a Skrull changeling of me. I've been fighting the Blue Meanies. Well, once again, I'd like to thank my friend Shades at Night for coming on board.
A pleasure, homie.
And you guys tell us, what do you think defines as a character being ruined? You guys let us know, and we out.
Bye.